we'll hold it as a regular board meeting. So I will go through all the things that we normally do at board meetings. So the first thing to do, I guess, is to report any apologies. Amy, can you do that for me?
Sure. So we have apologies from Miles Adcock. We have Richard Davison here as a substitute.
Welcome, Richard.
From Professor Karen Cox, and we have Carol Barron here as a
Welcome,
substitute.
Karen.
From Councillor Glazier, and we have Councillor Simmons here as substitute. And we also have apologies from Matthew Arnold.
Thank you. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to ask your permission, if I may, subject to any comments you may have of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 12th of June. Are they an accurate summary of what happened? And if they are, or any comments, please let me know.
Agreed.
Everybody happy? Okay, I'll sign those with...
No, I had a man. Sorry, I had my hand up. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Who's that? I can't see.
It's Carol.
Oh, Carol. Hi, Carol. Yep, thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Just a couple of small amends here that we've noted. Page 5,
yep.
4.3, the GPF gap bridge was 3.525. On page 6, item 5B, it says 3.6 million. Can we have consistency, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
So we'll check what the right number is, make sure it's right in both places, Carol. Thank you for that. Anything else?
And yeah, page 6, item II.
Yep.
If you remember from the meeting, I said that we needed to, and it was agreed that we would amend that to include or Brexit.
Yep.
That point there for the sector support fund specifically.
Thank you. One question, Suzanne. Thank you, Carol. One question.
So I was just going to say the point about the Brexit, that item was actually we weren't quorate for that item, so we can't agree anything on that point, but we will bring that forward to the next meeting and have that done as official business at that point.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Roger, did I see your hand go up, or were you adjusting your camera? No. Okay, thank you. All right, great. In that case, I do want to particularly ask people to declare if they have any interest. Yes, sorry.
Sarah, sorry, I just
Sarah, yeah, excuse me, Sarah, yeah.
On the sector support fund, are we saying that then we'll need to delay the process on that? I would be anxious about that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. So yes, I because of what we're doing today, particularly in relation to the Getting Building Fund projects, it is most important that if anybody has any declarations of interest, that they should note those now. So any declarations anyone wants to declare? Yes.
Two hands up, Chris. Carol and David Monk.
And Angela as well, I think. So I'll go with Carol and then David and then Angela. So Carol.
Yes, within the portfolio of the projects, the docking station is there, and we should declare an interest in that one.
Thank you. That's on behalf of the University of Kent. So then I've got David Monk.
Yes, thank you. The Romney Marsh project is actually in my district. So
of course, thank you, David. Yes, noted. Angela?
The Transport and Logistics Institute is a project that's being managed by us.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, that's noted. Jeff?
As chair of Kent Music, we are looking to be involved in Javelin Way. We're not at the moment, but we are looking to be involved. Just for clarification for me, David quite rightly said that Romney Marsh is in his district. But yep. Obviously, all of the Kent projects
are in KMAP. Yes.
I take it that we're okay with.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. No need for any other federated chair. Sarah.
Sorry, just to say, obviously, apropos docking station, any projects that are part of the Thames Estuary Production Corridor. I'm chair or co-chair of the Thames Estuary Production Corridor. I have no pecuniary interest, but just
thank you as well. It's good to know. Thank you. Good. I'll just making sure I check the chat.
Two Grahams, Butland and Peters.
Okay, so Graham Butland first, then Graham Peters second. Graham Butland.
Yes, Chairman, in respect of one of the projects supported by the government, Horizon 120 Business Park, I am the leader of Braintree District Council. Of course. And the project is put forward by Braintree District Council.
Indeed. Thank you, Graham. And then Graham Peters.
I think I'm right in saying Rupert Simmons. Are you not a director of the company which is proposing to do the fast track business solutions?
CJ? Yes. Forgive me, I was struggling to get the chat program going.
Okay.
I'm indeed a director of Sea Change Sussex, and that's relevant to the fast track business solution Hastings application.
Thank you, Rupert. That's noted. Any other declarations of interest from anybody? No? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for those. So in that case, we'll move to the main meat of the meeting, which is the Getting a Building Fund programme. As you will know, the government has set aside some £900 million as a special fund to get the economy going as quickly as possible. And I'm very pleased to report, as you all know, that CELEP secured 85 million of that 900 million, which is by some way the largest of any LEP or indeed mayor combined authority. So that's a great result for CELEP. And I think that's, there are a number of reasons for that. A, that our economy has been badly hit and we need it. But secondly, most importantly, that I think that you all do a very good job in representing the interests of CELEP and that government are taking notice of your lobbying, which is great. And finally, really a tribute to the Secretariat, who do a really good job in making sure that when we do get awarded projects, we actually deliver on time, and we've got very good marks, as you know, for delivery. So we can pat ourselves on the back for having secured this very large sum of money. The next thing we have to do is to divide it up amongst worthwhile projects. And as you'll be aware, the federated areas have been doing a lot of work, and I want to pay a special tribute to the federated chairs, their boards, and indeed, most importantly, their officers who've very, very ably supported them. I also want to thank particularly the Section 151 officers who have been asked to sign off on each project that they comply with the somewhat draconian strictures of the Getting Building Fund regulations. And so thank you, a really big thank you to the Section 151 officers. I know that's not a trivial exercise. And then finally, I want to thank the chairs of the federated areas who have also confirmed the projects are their agreed projects from each federated area. And that allows me in turn, if this board endorses the list, it allows me in turn to, as I'm required to do by HM government, to sign off the list on behalf of us all. So having said that, you will hopefully have seen from the papers the list of projects that have been submitted, either from your area or overall. And I guess I should want to open it up for comments before I ask the board to go through the various steps that it has to take in order to get the list agreed. The deadline for submitting the list is tomorrow. So that's it's been a very, very abbreviated timetable, which really goes back to what I was saying beforehand. I think that so up until now, everybody has really worked all hours that God gives, and also most importantly, very constructively and collaboratively to get this list together. But before I pat all of us on the back, I should go through I should go here to see if anybody's got any comments or observations to make on the list of projects. So over to you. And bear with me if I don't see you immediately. I've got a lot of you on the screen, but hopefully my tail gunners will help me note those who wish to make points.
Chris, I'll just keep you. But I'll just talk to you and tell you who's got the hands up rather than send you messages. So I've got David Monk, Graham Butland, and Carol Barron with hands up currently.
So David, and then sorry, David Monk.
David Monk, Graham Butland, Carol Barron.
Sorry, that's a procedural thing. When I run a meeting, I lower the hand so they know they've been spotted.
Oh, okay, thanks, David. So Graham Butland, and then so Graham Butland.
No, Chairman, just putting my hand down from
so Carol,
declarations.
the floor is yours, Carol.
Well, forgive me because I think some of the points I might just put forward might have been discussed at the federated boards, but they're just my observations when I looked at the criteria and what the government were looking at. So in no order, Little Britain development, I think significant jobs, and they're high GBA jobs, which we've got to welcome, I think, into the area.
Yes.
Heart of the town, again, I saw that was part of the criteria that they were looking for. Just a query on the completion date, is that beyond the funding period?
Yep.
And are there enough outputs in the timescale? And
Right.
it's a lower ask in year one, because I know they
Right.
wanted, if possible, to put much of the ask into year one. So
Right.
there's not, you know, I'm not saying it shouldn't be there. It's just comments that I noted when I was going through the list.
No, sure. Are these Kent projects, Carol, or they?
Yeah, I just went through them all actually.
Oh, okay. So if you could ask,
representing
what I will do is, in relation to each particular project, I'll ask the federated chair from that particular region to answer your observations. So the first one you mentioned was
Little Britain Development. I mean, it's only because we're here for the U9.
No, I understand. I understand. So, which area is that in?
Little Britain is Chatham KMEP.
Okay, so Jeff, over to you on that one.
Just to say that Carol's absolutely right. All of those points were discussed at KMEP. I don't obviously have all of the answers in front of me now. I wasn't prepared, but each and every project that's put forward by KMEP was properly scrutinised, and many business cases in the time available were put together so to answer those questions, and therefore were signed off by the board. 33 sets of eyes went in and discussed it, and as with the S151 officer has agreed that we've hit all of those markers and everything that government has asked for.
Thank you, Jeff. So the next one, Carol?
Is new performing and production digital. It's a comment really, because this is again in the Dartford KMEP. I just think it's in the sort of areas that we should be looking to support around the digital side.
Sure.
It's in the heart of the Thames Gateway. I think it would really go down well with government, and of course the production corridor is in that area. So I think that's great.
Good, thank you.
Riding sunbeams was on the
That's East Sussex, isn't it?
Noted list.
Yep.
I think this is really interesting because it's around the green technology, environmental, the first world solar farm in this area. That would be a huge kudos for CELEP actually to have the world's first one in the region. I think that's pretty good. I just
thank you.
Yeah, can I interrupt, Carol? All of the KMEP, all of the KMEP projects, including that, were discussed in depth, and in the pipeline that we came up with, it was there were certain issues that were with it. Everybody would agree with what you're saying, but just to say they were all discussed in depth, so they weren't put forward just finger in the wind stuff. No. There was strong work, and people do agree with you on riding sunbeams. However, there were some issues, and I'm not going to get into it now, which is why they found themselves further down the list than maybe we would have wished for in other circumstances.
Thank you, Jeff. Graham, you've got your hand up.
Yes, please. Just to make the point that Carol may or may not be aware that was a two-part project with two distinctive geographical locations, one in East Sussex, one in Kent. The East Sussex one is on our list and has passed all the tests and so on and so forth. The Kent one, for the reasons that Jeff has just outlined, slipped below the barrier. But I think, well, it's lovely to think of East Sussex leading the way in green technology, and we'll be able to teach Kent a thing or two, perhaps.
And can I say, it'll be interesting how that pans out, Graham, because we were very keen to be working with East Sussex with it. I mean, that was part of the debate, and so it's not out off of the horizon, really. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Well, if any spare money suddenly appears, Jeff, you never know, you can come and join us.
And I've only got one more, Christian,
yep,
sorry.
Sure. That's okay, go ahead.
Just to speak really positively for the transport and logistics one, I think with the government priority of what's going on, Lower Thames Crossing, any Freeport status that we have in our region, I just think it's a really positive one, and we know that there'll be more money coming out of the government around this area. So it's just to speak positively about.
Thank you, Carol. So I've got Perry and then Joe James. So Perry.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is more of a general point, and a question really to Adam and Suzanne is, what can this board do now that hopefully we're going to approve these projects to get them moved on quicker, get the assessment process more streamlined, so that the shovels that are sitting there waiting for the shovel-ready projects don't go rusty?
Yep, good point. So Adam and Suzanne.
So from my perspective, I think first thing is to support our call to our colleagues in government for some additional resource to be able to sort of make the good administration of these projects happen, because we've got, you know, what's likely to be over £260,000 worth of ITE process to pay for that you know currently we would struggle to do. So we need not only to pay for that, but to make sure that it happens in an accelerated way, albeit within, you know, the strictures, the rules of our assurance framework. And then beyond that, I think it's, you know, you can rest assured that we'll make sure that we do this, you know, as quickly as we can, following all the rules that we have to. But obviously the quality of the information that comes around in the business cases is all important. And if that can be right first time in every case, then that's going to help make sure that there's no kind of, you know, bounce back of business cases from one, you know, say from the ITE back to the project sponsor and then back again. If we, you know, it's all got to happen quickly. And I think, you know, my big interest here is making sure that we can resource it properly. So we'll be going back to government quite strongly on that point.
Thank you.
It's going to be a costly process, Adam, and wherever possible, we need to control those costs, because, you know, as we've said before, the CELEB Secretariat is not flush with money for running these projects. So hopefully E. McNabb, who's listening, can help us on that.
Thank you, Perry. That's a very good point. I've got Joe James and then Rodney Chambers. So Joe and then Rodney.
Yeah, I mean, we've moved on a bit, but it was just to go back to Carol about Britton Farm.
Yep.
I just want, I could see why the U9 would have picked that one up, because the project completion date is beyond the timescale. But actually, the GPF spend actually is within the completion date.
Okay.
So the two dates are quite apart.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So I've got Rodney and then Graham Butland.
Thank you, Chris. I just want to confirm what Joe has said is right. I think the 2023 completion date on Britton Farm is for the whole of the Britton Farm project, of which the GBF fund is part of it. So I think that is where perhaps the disparity in the dating on there. But I think the important date is the date that we would expect to have spent the funds if we get it from central government. But
thank you.
The project is much larger, the Britton Farm project.
Thank you, Rodney.
Now, I just wanted to go on to the thing that I put my hand up for, because we seem to be moving from the list to Perry talking about the processes and needing to accelerate the processes after we have the result from government, which I hope is going to come to us speedily, and that is how we handle it, because I understand that were we to get an early decision from central government, that we are intending to take most of the projects. First of all, they've got to go through an independent technical evaluation, which I understand is going to be a 2-month period. Well, 2 months on the period up to 22 is quite a considerable amount of time.
Indeed.
It does seem to me that what we've got to do, we've got to accelerate the process of the independent evaluation so that we can get them to the accountability board as soon as possible. If not in September, certainly it would be hoped that we could get them to a special meeting in October, because time will be of all the essence.
Yep.
We've all worked very hard to get where we are today at a great deal of speed. And I don't think we should then sit back and allow time to lapse before we get the sign-off by the accountability board.
Thank you, Rodney. Adam, do you want to respond to that?
It's exactly the point I just made. You know, the processes need to be accelerated, taking into account exactly what Rodney said, really.
Yep.
You know, we obviously need to have a conversation on the assumption that we can find a way of of paying for it. We need to have a conversation with the ITE that says that this needs to happen, you know, in an accelerated fashion. And yeah, absolutely. You know, we've had the conversation with all the officers this morning about having an earlier accountability board. So we'll do everything that we can to, you know, to turn this around quickly.
Thank you, Adam. Graham Butland.
Yes, I just wanted to, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to pick up quickly on the ITE. I mean, clearly project sponsors will be doing due diligence. I think it's quite likely in many cases upper tier authorities will then also be overseeing that. And then we get a third tier of IT. I just wonder whether we might be just thinking on these projects, just how many times they need to be examined and whether the final might be a lighter touch if assurance can be given by an independent body, such as in Essex by the upper tier authority, you know, that we don't do the thing 3 times running.
Yes, yes, no, good points. Thank you very much, Graham, for that. Roger, Roger Goff, is your hand up?
It was, Chairman, but I think the point has been made. I was just reading October accountability board, etc.
Sure.
Perhaps just say it's not fair to accuse this board of ever sitting back, but yeah, I think it's very important we have that.
Good. Okay. Any further comments, observations anyone would like to make?
Raise hand from Sarah, Chris.
Sarah, yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, just to say about the accountability board, what we have talked about also is if we can't bring all of the projects forward to the, you know, an accelerated accountability board, that we would look to bring forward what we could, I believe. Yep. I hope that's what I'm not talking out of place, officers. You'll let me know if I am, but that's what I've sort of been talking about with you, and whether we can do that in order to ensure that, as Perry says, the shovels don't get rusty.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for a good point. Rupert Simmons, Rupert.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, first of all, to recognise the comments made by Ian McNabb in the chat line.
Yep.
Regarding his intention to explore ways of contributing to the ITE costs and how welcome that contribution is. Secondly, to say that we're dealing with a government trying to drive a stimulant for the economy here. And so the comments the government have made themselves on our prospective bids, I'm very pleased that the vice chairs have made recognition of that in the recommendations they're placing before us here today. We are duty bound, I think, to be productive with this investment, and the discipline of each of the cases being put forward will need to be seen by the accountable body, simply in examining the deliverability of every one of our projects.
Indeed.
So I'm pleased to support the current recommendations for the cases as are.
Thank you.
Very simply because that's a recognition of the sponsors and their diligence, but necessary to see the absolute discipline in the accountable body.
Indeed. Thank you. Good. Anybody else got any observations before I move to the more formal approvals that and steps we have to take? No? Okay, that's great. So what we're being asked to do is we're being asked, first of all, to note the strict criteria from government as set out in section 3 of the papers. Secondly, to agree the CELEP project package to a value of just under £85 million. The indicative list is set out in Appendix A for approval, noting that following your approval, that approval for by the Accountability Board, the point just Rupert's just been making, is required. Thirdly, to note that a reserve list of projects will be presented to the October board in order that any projects agreed by the Strategic Board that can't then, for any reason, proceed can be swapped for an alternative prioritised project. This, of course, is dependent upon HMG providing assurances that projects can be swapped under the conditions of getting building fund. So we need to obviously wait for that assurance before we can do it. Fourthly, to note that the administration costs of this addition to the CELEP capital programme, the cost of taking the projects through the ITE process in particular, should be noted, as we have done, It should also be noted that there will be an increased cost to be met by the sponsoring and delivery organisations, as they are required to undertake monitoring and evaluation. And there is no indication at this stage that HMG, no confirmation, I should say, at this stage that HMG will fund those costs. And finally, to note that the assurance framework will require revision to update for the assessment of these projects. This will be done following the consultation with the Accountability Board in accordance with the CELEP assurance framework. So I've asked you to note some things and to agree one thing. Can I have your agreement to that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, a question from Carol, Chris, before we can,
right.
let's call the vote in a second, but
that
Carol had a question.
No, I thought it was a raised hand to agree. Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
Right,
Carol Ford.
Carol Ford. Carol, yes.
Yes, sorry. I thought my understanding, perhaps I'm wrong, is that actually Appendix D is what's going to the government. So should we not be agreeing Appendix D?
Appendix A is just a summary position of Appendix D.
So we should be agreeing Appendix D. Is that not correct?
Well, the Appendix D will be submitted with Chris's on Chris's kind of say-sos, but yeah, you can. Let's say Appendix A and D. Then we're all covered, yeah?
Okay, fine.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I should, of course, also confirm that you are content for me to append my signature to the list as being the agreed list from the CELEP region. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much. As I say, once more, I wanted to reiterate my thanks to really to everybody who's been involved with this.
Sorry, Chris, can we do the vote? We need to see the
vote.
hands.
Okay, if I ask you to vote, you raise your hand on the screen so it can be seen.
Raise your hand electronically or on the screen, because I'm kind of assuming it's going to be unanimous.
Looks like it.
Just checking that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a unanimous vote, Chris.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's great. Okay, so I now want to deal with Transport East. So Adam, can we deal with Transport East?
Yeah, just very quickly. Obviously, everybody will have heard of subnational transport bodies in the past. We've indeed very recently at the Strategic Board had a presentation on the progress being made by Transport for the South East, which is actually chaired by Keith Glazier, the leader of East Sussex. We are a member also as a LEP of Transport East, which is the subnational transport body that covers Essex along with Norfolk and Suffolk. We are, as officers, engaged with that to a similar extent that we're engaged in Transport for the South East. It is therefore appropriate that we have a board representative on Transport East. So the paper seeks your agreement that Perry Gladden, the chair of Opportunity South Essex Federated Board, is a representative of CELEP on the forum of Transport East, and that Travis Scott, who's a board member at Success Essex, will act as his deputy.
Can I have your agreement to that, please?
Agreed.
Raise your hands.
Agreed.
Thank you. So, Perry, you've got another job. Okay.
I think that's the thumbs up from Perry. I think that's a unanimous vote.
I should just add that we're also, of course, the one that is the transport sub-region that is most closely aligned geographically with us, of course, is Transport for the South East, which is chaired, I think, Councillor Glazier, who's not here today, is an apology for today.
He's at that very meeting.
He's at that very meeting, where I anticipate that he will be reappointed as chair of Transport South East. And actually, we do. The LEPs of in the area do have two directors, I think, on that body. I think they're both. I think is there one from EM3 and one from Coast to Capital, Adam? I think
that's right. Yep.
Yep. So we don't currently, as CELEP, have a representative. Those two people are there to represent all of us, all of the LEPs that are covered by Transport South East. Doesn't happen to be us at this time. We have been assured, because we've asked the question, that we hear back from them that any issues that are of interest that could be of interest to us will be fed back to us. So we've had that assurance from the nominees. But I thought I should just say that for completeness. So thank you for that. There are just a couple of things that I want to. Is there raised
hand? David Monk and Jeff Miles.
Yep. David, so why don't we go with you first and then Jeff?
Yes, I am actually a board member of the Transport for South East, but as we were looking to divvy up 85 million quid, I thought this was a more important meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's well. It's good to know, David. If we don't have a formal representative, I presume you're representing your council area rather than us on that technically.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it's difficult to know where you slice yourself.
No, exactly. Well, it's good to know that. I didn't know you were on the board, so that's great to know that we actually do have someone on the board. Jeff.
No, sorry, Chris. My hand was left up following the last vote, so I wasn't looking to speak. Hello?
I think Chris is frozen.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Sorry, I didn't. I just dropped off. It's my connection.
I do that to people.
I've actually found out. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm sorry, I missed what you said, Jeff.
No, I'm just saying. Sorry, my hand was left up after the vote.
Okay.
So
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, there are just a couple of items of any other business I thought.
Looks like he's frozen again.
I don't know if you're able to read his mind, Sarah.
No, maybe I suppose I should. It's just for the time being. What I will say is we've just had a really good round table with some of our MPs, which has been which was very productive. So just for you to note that. And what we have done is promised that we will send them the list from this meeting. Graham, you've got your hand up. No?
Premature.
No, I'm back again. I'm back again. I know what my problem. I think I know what my problem is. So yeah, so we had I just want Adam. Did you have any comments, or Sarah?
No, I was merely asked Sarah to step in when you disconnected.
Right, thank you.
I was filling in on the MP's round table whilst you were gone.
Okay, great. So that's that one done. And then the second thing I should report on is that I hope you'll all be aware that we're making great progress on so-called Catalyst South, which is the grouping of the 6 LEPs that surround London. The genesis for this, very briefly, is that the 6 chairs of the LEPs that surround London effectively met in February of this year. And we were concerned, I guess, for a couple of things. First, that in the Conservative manifesto on which they fought the 2019 election, there was a reference to pan-regional groupings, and there didn't seem to be a pan-regional grouping for the South. And we wanted to make sure that there doesn't seem to be a voice for the South. And it's important, actually, because there are so many issues for us as a region to be making sure that we're heard from government. And around our coastal communities, around our gateway, around our logistics, around our innovation, all sorts of things that you would be thinking that there ought to be a voice for the South in the way that there is for the Northern Powerhouse, the Midlands Engine. And so we felt that voice needed to be heard. And the second reason that we met, and the more urgent one, was around the levelling up agenda that the government has, which seems to have a north-south axis to it, rather than anything else. And we felt that if there was a north-south axis to the levelling up, it would be a levelling up from the south to the north. And of course, as we all know, we have some of the most urgent issues here in the south, and we have some of the most deprived regions in the whole of the country. So we as a group have, the chairs of 6 LEPs have been working together to articulate a case for the south, and also when we had an initial meeting with officials, there seemed to be a significant danger, and I use that word advisedly, that when officials are giving advice to ministers about what the region for the south should be, that it would be London and the south as one region. And we felt for a whole range of issues that would be possibly not to our advantage. So what do I mean by that? I mean that there are a number of issues that we have, rural, coastal communities, particularly around our ports and gateway and logistics businesses, that simply aren't shared by London. And London, of course, has many of its own issues that really don't apply to us. Of course, there are many common issues. I mean, London is incredibly important to us, but we felt that lumping us in with London would potentially not be to our advantage. And secondly, if it is going to be a regional grouping, if you put in us and the sort of the donut, if I can describe it that way, that surrounds London, in with London, the combined, we're just under 20% of GVA of the whole of the UK. and they in London are 25% of the GVA of the whole UK, you've therefore got something that is almost 50% of the whole of the GVA of the UK. And that isn't really, but what you'd have is you'd have us and London, and then the rest. And so any discussion about regional help, regional direction, would be between us and London on the one hand, and then the other regions like the Northern Powerhouse, the Midlands Engine, etc. on the other hand. We felt again that was probably not to our advantage, and so what we wanted to do is we want to. It's really in the context of the white paper that is coming out in later this year on devolution, which has its own challenges, if you believe what Simon Clarke said yesterday, I think, or was it the day before yesterday in the speech, and what was commented on certainly in the FT yesterday about what that means for local government. And secondly, it's talking about shared prosperity and recovery. And we feel that we in the South have a major role to play in recovery. And so what we wanted to do, what we intend to do is we intend to write to Simon Clarke, the Minister for Local Growth, before Parliament rises. That's Parliament rises next week, so very soon. That we want to get together. We want, as a group of six LEPs in the South, we want to articulate a voice for our area, and we want to make sure that the issues that are important to us are heard by Simon Clarke prior to he finalizes his thinking on the white paper. So it's not about local government. It's not about many things. What it is about growth, recovery, and making sure that our left behind areas are not forgotten. And that's what we plan to. When we described this plan to the MPs, our MPs this morning, there was a lot of enthusiasm, not around local government reorganisation, but around making sure that the voice of the South was heard on the issues that are important to us as LEPs, which is basically economic recovery, growth, and making sure that our left behind areas, lots of the things we've been talking about today, for example, are at the forefront of ministers. And we've had a couple of conversations with ministers about these issues, and I'm very pleased to say that at the ministerial round table, which was held earlier this week, which is another meeting we had which was hosted by Paul Scully for businesses within the 6 Southern LEPs. We had 50 businesses represented. And it was great that we had of those businesses represented, 50% were women and 20% were BAME. So we were able to show a good diversity of business to the minister. He actually, the minister concerned at the time was Paul Scully, and he actually played back to us the fact that he knows that we have some very challenged and deprived areas, which may actually in our area fall mainly within CELEP. It's mainly the coastal areas of Essex and Kent, and Hastings, of course, as well, in East Sussex. And so we're actually beginning to get playback of our own arguments, which I always think if you hear that from ministers, it means that actually they are paying attention and that they are hearing what we're saying. So I think we're making progress, but I wanted to make sure that this board was aware of what we were doing. Hopefully you are broadly supportive. I have been asked to be chair of this informal grouping for the time being, which I'm happy to do, and have been acting in that capacity for the last 6 months. But I thought shouldn't get too far over my skis to make sure that you on this board were cognizant of what we're doing and are broadly supportive of trying to get a voice for the South in terms of business development and business recovery. I don't know if anyone's got any comments on that, but that's what we're doing.
Raise hand from Perry.
Yeah, Perry.
I just wanted to take the opportunity and thanking both Adam and Suzanne in particular for all of their hard work with the team through this last 2 or 3 weeks of torturous backwards and forwards, and to the federated chairs for their support as well. So I think it's important we recognise in the board both Adam and Suzanne and the team's work.
Absolutely, Perry, of course. Thank you for that. Any other comments before yeah, Jeff?
Just 2 points. One is it's remiss of me, but I should have reported Matthew Arnold's apologies. He spoke earlier, but he's been called off on a family emergency, I understand. So he had to back out literally at the last minute. And I'd just like to reiterate what Perry's just said, but also what you said earlier, Chris, about all of the federated area officers. I mean, I know in our case there's been 3-4 o'clock in the morning working, and I know that's been the same across the whole piece. So the secretariat and the local team, when they meet up, and I'm told it's quite regularly, once a week or something. There's been a lot of hard work, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, there has been a most extraordinary amount of work, not only within our own secretariat, for which I'm most grateful, but also within the federated areas, the local government offices. We've got the leaders of the upper tiers here, so just make sure that we want to make sure that they know. Well, I'm sure they do know, but how hard their teams and how effectively their teams have been working from the accountable body, which of course is Essex in this case, and the lead that the Section 151 officer from Essex has been giving. But all your Section 151 officers and all your economic teams really have worked really hard to get this list together. So that should be noted, minuted, and thanked. Rupert, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to actually endorse the initiative that you have introduced yourself.
Well,
the 6 LEPs coming together to make a collective representation to central government. I think in the context of the competitive nature that is ahead of us with our national resource for government recovery, economic recovery, I think it's the greater importance that you have brought that initiative together.
Thank you.
And it may yet prove to be hugely important in our near horizon.
Thank you, Rupert. I've got Graham and thank you, Rupert. I've got Graham and then Peters and Carol Barron. So Graham, over to you.
Yes, I got another substantive point, but can I just add my thanks, or our thanks, to you, Chris, for steering us through this potentially fraught time to a joyous and happy conclusion all round. But seriously, thank you. You've been part of it, as well as the federated teams and the CELEP team itself.
It's a collective team. Actually, it's a collective team effort, which is very, very, for me, it's very, very pleasing to how constructively CELEP, the CELEP family and all the wider family has come together. So thank you for that.
But I just wanted to raise one other point, if I may, which is, do we have any firm understanding of where the LGF 1/3 is or isn't?
Yes.
Or
I can give you a headline, and then maybe Ian McNabb can comment. So my understanding is that that the final third has been approved or confirmed for us, I should say. That request has gone into HM Treasury with the sort of endorsement of the CLGU teams, and we're waiting for it to come back out of HM Treasury. Ian, are you on the line still? Can you help on that, or if you go on? I think Ian.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Yep.
No, what you've said is correct. Ministers have approved it. It needs to be finally cleared by Treasury, but we do expect you to be paid it in August sometime.
Thank you, Ian.
It's coming.
Yep. Thank you, Ian, for that. So I've got Carol Barron. Carol.
Thank you, Christian. Karen's asked me if I can urge the CELEP this afternoon to include a future agenda item for skills development.
Yes.
And actually, this is interesting because it's in line with some of KCC's I'm thinking at the moment.
Yes.
But a couple of background points. In evidence to the Education Committee yesterday, Michelle Donnellan hinted that the white paper on education would include something on the role of universities in reskilling post-COVID.
She did, yeah.
And also, Karen had a meeting with Rama from Christchurch College with one of our regional MOTs, I was going to say, so I'm thinking about my car, MP. And, there was a lot of discussion about a holistic approach to how HE and FE provision can be brought together in an offering. And so, this probably will require future investment when there's the opportunity for funding that could be directed towards skills development. But just put that on the agenda, really.
I think that's a really important point, Carol. We have, we do many things on a PANLEP basis. I mean, certainly skills and higher, certainly FE and HE is one of those things. We have, as everyone knows, and this is to spare Carol's blushes, we have some of the leading universities in our LEP, and we also have some great further education colleges. And we have some great people who know about skills. So and particularly Louise. So I think that this absolutely your point is very well made. We should be discussing this. It is a very, very hot topic at the moment, particularly as the the government has announced the abandonment of the target that half the population should go to university. And so what is going to happen following that? And I hope what it means is there'll be a further investment in skills in particular, and to make sure that the skills do equip people for the new economy, which is going to be so important post-COVID. So I think you're absolutely right. We should definitely have a feature on this at our next board. So we'll note that. Yep. Anybody else for any more?
Yeah, just me.
Yep. Angela, yes, of course, yes, yeah, absolutely.
In response to that, there is a new paper that came out the other day on higher level skills, which is one of the things that we've been talking about for the whole CELEP region for quite a long time. So it might give us a bit of impetus to actually start doing some thinking about how we're going to develop higher level skills between universities and FE colleges across the LEP to try and increase our productivity, which, if you remember before COVID, that was what we were all focused on, wasn't it?
Indeed, absolutely. Thank you, Angela. Joe James, I've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, following the last board meeting, I've had conversations with Adam regarding the SEED project that was put forward by KCC for sector support funding. I know there were concerns with the project, and I have proposed to Adam that we potentially set up a PAN-led working group to look at the potential amendments to the project and to answer any concerns, and then potentially bring it back to the next board meeting. It's around international trade, and I think I think it's very appropriate that actually we do start to give the focus on international trade. So I don't know how we put that forward. Adam could circulate that around to the board for proposal after the meeting.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Adam, is that you're able to do that at some stage after?
I agree. Export, international trade, really important. Pulling together a group of each part of the LEP is a really good way forward, and putting together a project that the LEP can sign up to, I think is essential. So absolutely happy that we do that. We should. Some learning from the process of the previous sector support fund bid to take on board, and then put something together to sort of bring back for the next time we discuss it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I think that concludes everything. Everybody's happy. Yep. So the date of the next meeting, Suzanne, is the 7th of September. Is that right? Or
I'm on mute. We have a meeting on the 4th of September.
4th of September, right.
And
okay.
Then, and then the next main meeting is on the 2nd of October. So.
Okay, fine.
So just to be clear, on the 4th of September, Chris, we may or may not run it as a formal board, depending on whether or not we need to make a formal decision.
Yes.
So we won't have it as if we do need to use it to make a formal decision, obviously you can expect the papers well in advance and some work undertaken in August. But I think unless we have to, we'd probably rather have it as a round table so we can have a more free flow discussion.
Sure. Well, on as you know, Adam, on that, and Sarah I hope knows, on that day, the 4th of September, I'm due to be on a ferry between Santander and Portsmouth. And it's about the one time in my life, one day in my life where I cannot be contacted through Wi-Fi or mobile. So it won't be. So Sarah, I will ask Sarah to stand in for me for that. So I'll give my apologies now. And so you have to allow me my one day off without being connected, and that's it. Okay, once again, thank you very much, everybody. I think we've got a great result here, and let's get the economy going. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.